and Orlando, Leesburg, Crystal River, Daytona Beach, down to Lakeland, all in between. It's really true. It's amazing, the outreach of this one television station. And then on the internet, anyone that wants to watch this station, anywhere in the world that has a computer and an internet connection, can watch this station. Wow. It's an amazing thing. It's better television than I grew up with, right on the internet. It really is. And you can click on 24 hours a day anywhere and get it. Technology is really being used by Christians today, and I'm so grateful for that, to advance the cause of Christ, to connect people, to share resources. And this station is dedicated to the work of the supernatural. And the supernatural is what is real. The natural will pass away. Supernatural was and is and always will be. And so God works in the life of individuals who connect. That's what life is about. That's right. It's some people talk about life, and you know, someone said life is what goes on while you're getting ready to live. And so at some point in time, you have to drive a stake and say, from this point on, I'm going to start doing some things that I know I need to do, making some decisions that I know I need to make, so that 5 years from now, I can be further toward my goals than I am today. But the world system is set up for you to be an ant, so that you go from point A to point B, back to point A, point B, and occasionally to another anthill somewhere. It's true.
That's right.
And we never stop to enjoy life. We never really appreciate the greatness of God as we should, in nature and things around us, in circumstances, and in the people that God brings into our life. God is working on our behalf at all times, and if we don't notice those things, acknowledge them, and celebrate them, they seem to be no connecting dots. But as we acknowledge God's blessing, as we recount what He has done for us, and as we speak and release faith into our future, then our life begins to respond to that. And so anything is possible as long as we can call on the name of Jesus. That's really true. Anyway, I've got some guests today. They must be ministers of the gospel, because as we opened the program, I just wanted to preach.
I like that. I felt it.
Yes, you did.
Right. Oh, I tell you.
I love it.
This beautiful couple are just very unique people.
Yeah.
And yet such a typical thing of what happens when people come together and they begin to have a common cause to serve the cause of Christ and grow a life together, and that's what's happening. They're local pastors in the Orlando area, Jump Ministries, Global Church.
That's right.
On West Colonial Drive in Orlando, 4 services a week.
That's right.
You're touching the world in many ways.
That's right.
And you're going to expand that even more. You've had a great relief work in Haiti for some months now,
yes,
including the earthquake situation.
That's right.
You just returned from London, England.
That's right.
Where you went over and established a beachhead for the gospel.
That's right.
And Christian television in Europe, right?
That's right. Christian all through Europe.
Jump Ministries will soon be international. So
global.
See, I'm having
Global.
just my life. This man comes in. The first thing I notice about this couple is they have quality. They have an accent on quality and on detail, and they are passionate and focused. And I just want to introduce them to you.
Yes.
You see Dr. Duran on the station here often. His program is on 3-4 times a week.
Yes, yes.
Jump Ministries International. Jump Ministries
Global.
Global. See, I know it.
That was good. That was good.
And then his beautiful wife,
Thank you.
Lady Fong.
Thank you.
Hey, spell the first name for me.
Phuong.
And pronounced?
Fong in Chinese and English, but in Vietnamese it's Phuong.
Okay. Can I stick to English?
You may speak.
You were born in Saigon, Vietnam, right?
I was, yes.
And immigrated to America, and she and 17 family members, I guess. So that's quite a story. She never had any exposure to the gospel until someone in her family. She finally was invited to a local church called Jump Ministries Global Church, and she went in. Dr. Duran was preaching, and he caught her eye, she caught his eye, and the Spirit of God moved in your life. You really got born again out of a Buddhism background, religious system that you grew up with in the early stages of your life. You were born in the Bahamas?
I was born in the Bahamas, Nassau, Bahamas.
Nassau, Bahamas. No Christian witness in your life?
No, Jehovah's Witnesses used to come around and knock at the door.
11 years of age, you watched
right.
a Christian television program
That's right.
on TV, and God touched you.
That's right.
you began to minister over on the east coast of Central Florida.
That's right. That's
in
right.
a blue house.
In
I
an
believe
old blue house.
Old
Make sure
blue
you say
house.
that. Or early 1800s.
With the white
Okay.
cockroaches.
And
With
think-
white cockroaches.
Right.
Old. That's how old the house was.
The reason I have these facts so close to my mind, I just finished interviewing them on an earlier program, and I just thought, you know, it's hard to get these people together. They just returned from an international trip, and I just felt impressed to ask you to stay over and do an additional
Thank you.
program.
Thank you.
So I don't have lots of questions this time, except I do believe that each of us has something that we can contribute.
Yes, yes.
And
yes.
maybe that will speak to the viewer today.
Yes, yes.
And be thinking about something that God would have you say
Yes.
to our viewers in this half hour. But and now they focus on their great church here in the Orlando area, and then they travel extensively. And in missions work, they're members.
That's right.
And they themselves go out into the streets.
That's right.
The streets of Orlando. They take cameras with them.
That's right.
They witness to people. They
That's right.
record,
That's right.
in many cases, those witnessing events and put them on television.
That's right. That's
on
what
your
we do.
program.
That's what we do. That's
Yeah.
what we do. For years, people always wonder, they say to me, is it real? But that was what I was doing from the very beginning, going to the streets, meeting people. So it's absolutely real, authentic. Everything they see is live and direct.
Yeah, I don't want to make a big issue out of this because it might sound self-serving, but it's important for me to say, all right? Someone was on television talking about Jesus, okay? When Dr. Duran was 11 years of age.
That's right. That's
You
right.
tuned in.
That's right.
You were in bed, weren't you?
That's right. I was in bed sleeping and just happened to turn over. And the
And
TV caught my eye.
TV
my
caught your
ear.
eye.
Mhm.
All right, somebody paid for that minister to be on TV.
That's right.
Somebody gave in support of that program.
That's right.
Now, come forward a few years. All right, now, a great church, a great ministry.
That's right.
You grew up in the first 5 years in Saigon, Vietnam, right?
Right.
You came here, you had no Christian witness in your life for the earlier years, but you came into the church there at Jump Ministries, Global Church, and you heard Dr. Duran preaching, and the Spirit of God, as they say in the South, got hold of you. Is that right?
Got hold of me, yes.
How did you know something was happening? When did you first witness? Because you only planned to go one time, right?
Right.
Was it your sister that took you to church or invited you?
Yes, she was. She invited me because of what was happening that week. Just a lot of things, just a lot of pressure, and I was just having so much fear. Sweating at night, I couldn't understand what it was.
Now, what was going on in your life right then? Were you in school and under stress of life and living in a...
I graduated school and I was working at had a really good job. Everything
Graduated from?
From UCF.
Okay, UCF.
UCF with
right.
hospitality management. I asked for a good job. Now, you know, I do come from a Buddhist background, but growing up, we never practiced to that extent, so I never really, you know, had that in depth. But I believed in God. Growing up, I did believe in God, and I would pray. I would say God. That was just what I would say, was just God. So, you know, growing up, I wanted to finish school, graduate, help my parents in our business. So,
What business were your parents in?
we were in restaurants. We did everything there was. We were the typical Asian family.
In Orlando?
In Orlando, in Ocala, which is where I originally grew up as a child.
Now think about this. God brought you from Saigon to Ocala.
Yes.
True. Okay. Saigon
Small little
to
town.
Ocala. And by the way, I don't know if you have a church in Ocala.
Not yet.
It might be in your future. Ocala is one of the most unique cities
Wow,
for
wow.
Christian television. One of the
Wow.
most supportive.
Wow.
And it's kind of, anyway, that's a different story. Maybe I'm speaking prophetically.
That's right, you are,
But
you
Ocala
are.
is a very special place.
You are,
And
you are.
I acknowledge that. Okay, so we got to Ocala. Please continue.
Got to Ocala, so to sum it all up, you know, God really has been in my life because everything I've prayed for as a little girl growing up and what I've wanted to achieve and accomplish, I received it. I worked hard and received it. Got a good job, worked for 3 years, and had a good position, and it just hit me in the year of 2007, which was when I visited Jump. The beginning of the year, and also I was in a relationship at that time as well, but something was just pulling me at that time. I just didn't feel fulfilled. I had a job, graduated school, was in a relationship, my family was happy, you know, we were supposed to get married. It was just, things were just, but then something was just off. I just didn't feel, something was just missing in my life. And I didn't want to regret. I didn't want to have any regrets later on. And I knew one of my dream was also to go back and get my master's. So I decided to, you know what, it's now or never. So the summer of 2007, I decided to quit my job, which I was at and doing real well. So that was my first step of faith, you know, leaving that job and the finance and that comfort zone.
That's correct.
But my sister, you know, during that time, beginning of 2007, kind of would sneak in books in my bedroom, would just leave it on my bed, like Joyce Meyer's books, you know, Casting Your Cares Away. That was my first book I read. And I would kind of sneak and read it at night and read it and kind of applied it. Said faith, you know, faith, leap of faith, and just, so I kind of did it, but I didn't tell anybody. I did it in my own time, in private time, just to kind of, and it worked. So with that, I left and I applied to school and didn't accept me at some school. I got discouraged, but you know, God opened the door for me, and I knew it was God. So a lot of things were happening during that summer that I knew was God. Being released from a relationship that I knew was not going well.
Destiny began to take over your life.
Yes.
It definitely did, and I was trying to take control of it, be in control, because I'm, you know, I like to have things in order in my life. That's just who I am. And when that took, you know, destiny and God's hand was in my life, I just kind of flowed with it. I said, you know what? If you're real, I'm just going to flow with it. I'm just going to go with it. And I did. He released me from a relationship, which was about 7 years relationship. And, you know, a lot of things you try to keep from your family because you want to make things perfect for them to see and feel good and not worry about you. But I knew something was just not healthy in that relationship. And being released from that, I knew it was God. Because I just...
So then circumstances led you to go to one service as a result of, okay, to your sister, I'll go with you one time, right?
I did.
And that one service, something, would you sense it as, would you describe it as a warmth? What began to happen in that service?
A lot of things definitely worked up to that point. So I wouldn't say a lot of things worked. God was just stirring a lot of things inside of me and being released from just feeling so free. I felt like that time in my life that I could just do anything, and anything was possible. Being released from just the family burden and just the relationship and going back to school, I felt like I had a new life, a new beginning. And then, but that week happened, I couldn't sleep, I was sweating. I said, what is going on? You know, am I making the wrong choice? And she said, you know what? She said mention devil, but I just didn't like hearing that. So she said, come to service with me. Just come to service and just, you know, be there and see. I'm like, you know what, okay. So I visited. Wasn't what I expected. Again, I've never been to church in my entire life. Never visited. Really didn't know what to expect. But when I went into the service, it was just the realness and the testimony and watching the ministries and the people involved in the ministry. These were people that were real, that were on the streets, that had such background. I was like, wow, if this 20-year-old girl can get up there and step and praise God, and after being molested and raped and all these stories behind it, I said, Lord, something is real here. So, you know, it drew me. It drew me because I'm a person like, you know, I want to see if something's authentic and real or not, so it was real.
I want to say something too. I think that is why it's so important for like how you have the television ministry and what you're doing with the Majesty Building for people to support. I thank God for your heart and your love for His kingdom and His people, because without you being here, then the world would not be able to hear about the power of God and what He's doing. You are a blessing to so many lives. So I was through your television that I was on a 21-day fast, and I was watching a minister. And because of the ministry that the pastors that you have here and what they're sharing, thank God for your ability to see. And you said you're prophetic, but I think you are more prophetic than you even recognize. And I think you need to begin to step out in that more, because you have a strong gift of prophecy to be able to see and just be obedient to God. And I thank God that you never gave up. Thank God for your persistence, because, you know, with the pressures and the things, to build a building like that size, you could only imagine the pressure. So I thank God for you. Thank God for your heart. I thank God for the opportunity that you give so many ministers, so many pastors to be able to come on, like myself, like my wife, to be able to share the gospel, to say how our lives are changed. And I want to encourage, if I can, people that are out there to recognize that without Mr. Claud and what he's doing for television and Christian television, so many people wouldn't be able to hear. A lot of people don't go to church. A lot of people are at home.
Most people don't.
A lot of local people, and they're at home. And this is an opportunity, an avenue where people could hear the gospel about the Lord Jesus Christ.